day. Scott Hoffman here, Benchmark Export Services. We're continuing on in our discussion of Incoterms. Today we're going to cover FOB, FCA. Please keep in mind with these terms that you always want to use the Incoterm followed by the point of which you are delivering or picking up. So in the case of FOB, has one meaning and one meaning only. It is an Incoterm used for maritime use only, although these terms do get confused. People that are doing air will indeed use a maritime term for air freight, but FOB as it stands in the Incoterm 2010 is strictly a maritime term, and it means free on board the vessel at the named port of origin or embarkation. FOB is the maritime term. You have met your responsibility as the seller when your goods have passed the rail. On a export side, this term allows you to control your warehouse. It allows you to control your trucker and your inland delivery to the port. So it can be an okay term, but it doesn't give a lot of U.S. exporters the control ultimately of the main part or the carriage for the transportation or the ocean carriage. You may not get the equipment you need. The terminal may be difficult to deal with. For instance, in New York, you may have to deliver back to Howland Hook or Red Hook that might cost an additional $250 versus delivering to the port of New York and New Jersey over on the New Jersey side. So maybe not such a great term for U.S. exporters, very good term for U.S. importers. It allows your client overseas to control his dock, his inland delivery, pay those local charges in his local currency, but it allows you, the main contract or the ocean carriage, that you don't pay or you don't have him set up. The benefit to the U.S. importer is that the ocean freight or the main portion of the carriage can be subtracted from the invoice. Many times the seller overseas will not break out the ocean freight charge, therefore you pay duties and taxes on that higher amount. Now we're going to go on to the other side, or the sister term, if you will, for this, which is FCA, which means free carrier at the named point or port of embarkation, meaning FCA Philadelphia, FCA JFK Airport, FCA Port New York. It can be used either way as an air freight term or an ocean freight term. Highly recommend the use of FCA more than FOB. It limits your responsibilities and some exposures. For instance, if once I gate it into the terminal under FCA, my responsibility is done. It's now the steamship's responsibility while those goods are on the terminal until they load the vessel. All I have to do as the seller is to make those goods, get them to the port. Once they're gated in, my responsibility is done. So FCA Airport, FCA named trucker's warehouse, FCA airport, port, wherever, but always name the port. Port of New York, and handle that accordingly. FCA is definitely a little bit more restrictive, a little bit more inclusive than what FOB is. FOB as an Incoterm often confuses U.S. exporters because they're used to using the term as a UCC term where they would name FOB my warehouse, FOB the trucker's yard, FOB wherever. Truckers gate up, truckers gate down. It can be very confusing for U.S. exporters. Strongly recommend that you continue to learn Incoterms, that you continue to use these terms and sharpen them. It's a great way to streamline your communication with your overseas buyers and sellers. It's a great way to minimize your risk of exposure, and it's a great way to maximize your return in that you know exactly where you are at every point in these terms. Please note that also FOB and FCA have no responsibility to anybody in the transaction for insurance. This needs to be negotiated outside of this contract so that you have a clear understanding of who is going to be paying for it, who is going to be providing it, what coverage is available, and that if your company requires that you be named as additional insured, that you hammer all that out prior. Again, with this and any other term, if you have need of service, if you have questions, concerns, please feel free to reach us at the numbers, email, at our office, where we'd be happy to speak with you about these terms and how you can use them effectively for your benefit and for the benefit of your clients. Thank you.